play, Trey. You know, say run the play, Trey. I woke up this morning. Run the play, Trey. God kept speaking to me. Say run the play, Trey. He said, run the play, Trey. Say run the play, Trey. Alright. Run the play, Trey. Let me flow in this pocket. Say run the play. Yeah.
Action. Welcome YouTube world. We're back again. Andre Allen here on the Andre Allen Network, here with my beautiful wife, the Miss Lovely Georgetta. Ooh. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about what the internet's been buzzing about. The big slide of Sheduer Sanders. As you know, if you've been hiding under a rock and you just haven't heard, Sheduer was slated to go in the first round or second round pick of the NFL draft. And he failed all the way to the fifth round, the 144th pick in the NFL draft. And clearly we could see that it wasn't about talent, because he surely had the talent from his collegiate career. Jackson State, that's kind of where we kind of connected and heard about Sheduer when he was in Jackson State, because we had some church members of ours that had a daughter that attended the Jackson State, and we would go see the games, the football games. And it was during the time that Coach Prime was there and Sheduer was playing. That's where we kind of caught on to what Sheduer was. And then, of course, after that, they moved on to Colorado, and we followed him ever since then. And so we saw him actually, put up those numbers during college. And so it was clearly not due to the talent, because the kid had talent. And so what the buzz was around the NFL, he failed because of, his attitude, cockiness. They say he didn't interview well. They had all kind of complaints and criticism of Sheduer or why he failed. And so what we want to discuss is, do you think the NFL was trying to teach Sheduer a lesson? Because his cockiness, his brashness, flashiness, his gold, and then also with his dad being Coach Prime, it's said on the internet and through sources that, he's not well liked, because Coach Prime, he's confident. He's a very confident person, and people mistake that for arrogance. And, I think Coach Prime has this saying, don't let my confidence offend your insecurity. So that's one thing that he says. So we're trying to figure out, why did Sheduer slide all the way to the fifth round? What is your thoughts on that, Mom?
Well, first of all, you're talking to me about sports.
Okay.
People, I'm not into sports.
Okay.
But I am now a fan because of Sheduer.
Right.
You can always make assumptions about the reasoning, but when I saw that, because I saw how talented this kid was, and then when he didn't go by the second round, I'm like, what in the world?
Right.
And to hear that he went in the fifth round, I just knew, as a mother, I'm like, that's not right.
Right.
Because I really felt that because Dion has for some people, a reputation for being really arrogant, but he's super, super confident. He's super right. Motivational. And right. For us as African Americans, who wouldn't want to pour into their kid to be confident, to be bold, right?
Right.
And when I saw that and saw the trajectory of the way things were going, I'm like, that's not right. Mm-hmm. And I know that we live in a society in which, things happen that are unfair, but this was so blatant. I was like, what in the world? Because we know that this kid is talented. Why he wouldn't be taken in the first or the second round? And you got to day two, was it day two or day three? To the fifth round. I'm like, that is not right. So when I heard that he finally got chosen, I'm like, man, that's just cold. It was just cold blood. That's the way I felt about it.
Right. And to me, all that does, what the NFL doing that to Sheduer Sanders, all that does is make him even a bigger figure. Because now people are going to be following him even more. That's going to grow his fan base because now people are going to be watching to see what he's going to do. And I think Sheduer will have a chip on his shoulder, and he gonna have a extra motivation to go out there and prove that he is that guy, that he is that dude that we all thought he was. And so I just think that the NFL was just trying to teach them a lesson, like, hey, don't bring that over here. You coming into the NFL, you dealing with grown people. You're not gonna change the way we do things. I think they even said that they was afraid that, if things wasn't going well for Sheduer, then Coach Prime would be, trying to contact the general manager or trying to contact the coach, and maybe the coaching staff, would be, they'll be kind of on pins and needles, thinking that if they didn't do well, that Coach Prime would maybe perhaps come and coach the following year to coach his son.
Let's be clear. Well, let's be clear. When Dion got started, everybody, he was the underdog because a lot of people didn't have a lot of faith in Coach Prime and what he's done. And he's proven, the naysayers wrong, right? Coach. And then at the end of the day, he's made so much accomplishment. He's had so many accomplishments now, right? And now this is being passed on to his son. So he's molding and grooming his son, which is what we as parents should do, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know if it was a matter of they were intimidated by it, but I definitely think that the way that they did it was wrong. It was just straight up wrong. Because for me, I just felt that because they felt a certain way about his dad, that they didn't choose him. And it was just so, like I said, it was just so blatant. I'm like, how in the world, how can you really even how can you explain it? And you really could not explain it, but to say that it's something underlying. But the thing that I liked about Sheduer and his family, what he represented, is even though he went through that, he still kept giving praises to God. He still kept thanking God for every delay. He realized every delay wasn't necessarily denial, right? His attitude appeared to be really positive, and that was good for other young people, even us, to see. When you go through adversity, how you walk through that adversity. So for me to see a young kid, even though I was feeling for him as a mother, but to see how his response was and what his response was and how he responded during all of this, it was amazing to me. And I do believe it's going to make his name even greater. I believe that it's going to put more eyes on the NFL, but at the end of the day, you and I talked earlier about we don't have any no owners that are African American of these teams, right?
Right. Yes, there's no majority black owners of an NFL team. And I don't know if that. I think that could have something to do with it because the NFL owners is thought of a good old boy, system. And so, they talk, I'm pretty sure the owners talk, the league talk, I believe there was some collusion there. They tried to box him out and keep him out where everybody probably connected and say, look, we're not going to, let's stay away from picking Sheduer. And I believe there was some collusion because, the quarterbacks that got picked before him, they didn't have near about the numbers that Sheduer had. So it was obvious it wasn't about talent, right? It was about trying to send a message that, hey, we still run this. You're not going to come in here, with your entourage, I think his brother, Dion Jr., he does all the videotaping. We don't know if he'll be able to continue to videotape his every move like he have been, with the well-off media deal. So that's going to be interesting to see how Sheduer adjusts in the NFL and the things that, he'll be able to do. I talked to some people of the other Caucasian. And some of them feel that, hey, they felt that Sheduer wasn't coachable because of his cockiness and not cockiness, but his arrogance. They felt he was his heir.
Entitlement.
Yeah, they felt he was entitled. They felt that he had some cockiness to him. But it's basically that's how Dion raised him. I mean, like he said in one of his press conferences that, hey, Dion's my father. So, Dion raised him to be a confident young man and to know who he is, right? And so that carries off when he's communicating with people. And some people can't handle it. It rubs people the wrong way. So they say, oh, he's not coachable. He's going to try to come in and think he's going to run things and do things his way. And the NFL say, look, we're going to remind you, this is the NFL, and we run this.
But he's young, and so I'm certain that there's still some grooming needed. I'm sure that he needs to be polished in certain areas. It's a huge adjustment going from the collegiate level, I'm certain, to the NFL. So, in any time a young person is adjusting, going from one level to the next, it's going to be a trial period, right? A time where they need to adjust to their new surroundings, adjust to their new routine.
Get set up.
Again, his dad has been his coach for all of his life, basically, right?
Exactly.
And so it'll be interesting to see, but I think that he'll do well. In that environment, but it will take some adjusting for him because he's young. He's what, 23?
23 years old.
23 years old. So
exactly. Well, one thing that stood out to me, I was looking at one show on the internet on YouTube, and one of the shows talked about Sheduer, and how he always mentioned legendary, legendary, and even at his party that he was doing where he had legendary plastered all over the place. And the guy mentioned, he say, legendary of what? You haven't done anything in the pros. How can you be legendary, right? And some people are upset because his dad retired his number at the University of Colorado, and some people think that his game doesn't match his bravado or as much as he
I think it's good, for any person that has a vision of who they are, who they want to be. Mm-hmm. So he is visualizing himself as legendary, right? Right. So I believe in visuals, right? So a lot of people have a problem with it. They, say it's again, a sense of entitlement, that he's arrogant, that he's cocky. But at the end of the day, I think everybody should have a motto that they live by, right? Exactly. Whatever that is, be bold and very courageous, legendary, whatever that is. Right. I believe that in order to convey that messaging, that you have to walk a certain walk. You gotta walk that walk. You have to present yourself in that way, right? So you want to be legendary and be all covered up and mild and meek. No, it don't match. So it don't match. I have no problem with him speaking into existence. That's what he's doing. And a lot of people don't understand that it's a spiritual. He's practicing a spiritual principle. Mm-hmm. By saying legendary all the time, legendary, even though you might not think the accomplishments that he's done thus far is legendary, mm-hmm. but a spiritual principle is if you keep speaking it, the power of life or death is in the tongue, you keep speaking it, eventually mm-hmm. it will manifest itself, mm-hmm. and he will be that, mm-hmm. right? Coach Prime talks about he wasn't always Coach Prime, mm-hmm. and how he came up with the mantra prime time, mm-hmm. right? And that was way back when he was in his early days in college and at Florida State. And now you fast forward to today, we look at him as Coach Prime, prime time. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically what he's doing. He's practicing a spiritual principle of speaking it into existence and keep on speaking it until it actually manifests into the natural. But that has also been shown to Sheduer by Dion. That's right. So he's gotten it from his dad. That's right. And so his dad has modeled that and walked that out for him. So now Sheduer is taking upon the same practice. So at the end of the day, people can say this or that and the other, but what I see just from this therapy side is that, his dad has walked a certain path and his dad has modeled behavior for him, right? And when you talk about speaking who you are, that's exactly what he's doing. He's speaking it into existence,
he's
right?
doing.
And so some people, it catches them off guard because it's like, who are you to say that you're legendary or you're this and you're that?
You ain't made a pro. You ain't did a pro game yet.
But you're speaking nevertheless. We have a daughter who's into athletics, right? So
basketball.
We're speaking into her now, right? We want her to start speaking it, but we also want her to live it. Right? We want her to act it out, right? Act as if it's so, right?
There you go.
So if you're going to be a basketball player, if you're going to be the one that says, she's born to stand out.
Yes.
And that's what I tell all the time. You're born to stand out.
Right.
And so when you have someone who is constantly in your life that's telling you these positive things, it's going to be naturally it's going to come up, it's going to rise up in you. And so eventually you're going to start walking in that. I don't think Sheduer, little bitty, probably didn't know, but as he got older and kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing it, he just grabbed onto the vision. So that's the way I think about it.
And he can see it with his dad. I mean, he has the prime example. It worked for his dad. He has an example right before him. He sees that it worked for his dad. So, and it's biblical. It's spiritual principle. It's an actual principle. So, and he saw it work. So that's basically our thoughts on the whole NFL draft. I think NFL did try to teach him a lesson, but I think at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Sheduer will look back at this thing and he'll be on top. He's gonna come out on the good side of this, on the good side of this, and he'll be what he envisions himself to be, which is legendary. Amen. Agreed. All right. So in the comments, we would like to hear your thoughts on what you think. Was the NFL trying to teach Coach Prime and Sheduer a lesson? What are your thoughts? What do you feel? What do you think about Sheduer being legendary, right? So we're going to call it a night. And until the next time, peace and love. Bye.
Good night.